What's
All
up,
right, we're
guys?
back. Yes, episode 20. Nice to see everyone.
Been
Whoever's watching. Cool.
wherever you're in the world. So we want to touch more based on purpose this episode. So I was thinking, like, we should probably explain like yours and mine, and also how has it been effective and growing throughout the years from start. Let's just say from being lost within the normal age of like obviously since we lack purpose, like a lot of people lack purpose at this age, to a world where we slowly started to find and basically become one with our purpose. Like, do you want to say your part first, just because it'd be
Yes, definitely. I mean, the whole point of like your life, your life's mission, what your purpose is. That's something that has to be defined. Like it could be defined at every like context of your life, right? Like for example, at work, you have a certain role, certain task to accomplish. Same for, when you're in the house, every person has a different like purpose, depending on where you are in life and everything, and your age and whatnot. So that's something that people have to reflect on, the everyday tasks that come with it.
But what about the one thing at the core center, like in the center of the onion? What would be like? How could we help people find that?
Yes, so like there's also purpose as in like who we are, like why we're on earth, the point of like our existence, like how we see it. That's something that goes like deep down, it's something that like every human being has to reflect on in order to accomplish the greater good. So like for example, how like we reflect on our existence with respect to where we are on earth, and then with respect to God and our creator. So that's something that has to hit everyone deep down, and then after that you kind of like hone in on your circumstances, as a human being. So it's like,
And your gift to other humans.
yeah, and everyone has a different circumstances, the place, time they were born, their environment, whatnot, and then with time, kind of responsibilities that are given to you. That's also something else.
Whether God given or just out of just circumstances, as you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, circumstances is God given. Like everyone is going to be. Nobody chooses where they're born, what circumstances they're born into, when they're born. So that's something that's given. So like the first step would be to kind of see what's my purpose with respect to what's given to me by God. And then after that you see, okay, these are the circumstances I'm born into, and then I'm like, okay, yeah, I was like born, in this country at this time, and this is my family situation, this is my, and then you kind of see like what are my responsibilities now on what's given to me. What do I have to take care of? Sometimes you're born with a certain gift, right? You're talented. So now you have to have to take care of that and start maybe, grow, excel more into that. So it's like giving back now to God first, and then giving back to,
Humanity.
what's exactly humanity, what's given to you, your environment and whatnot. So yeah, exactly.
Would there be anything that's like found in particularly that's important in your worldview and for you? Because I'd be happy to say mine after. I can say mine first if you want.
Yeah, go ahead. I talked to her a bit.
So obviously my purpose is obviously the reason why we're here is to obviously spread basically self-improvement, health, wealth, and obviously the spirituality of it all. The spirituality is obviously the most core and the most fundamental part because it links down every part of your life. But mine on that spiritual level is to serve God and obviously to serve all the people who have come before me, like my ancestors, like my parents. Like even the reason why I take the risks that I do is to basically put my family in a better position, whether mentally, physically, spiritually, or even emotionally. But Yeah, like why we started this podcast is to one, obviously for our younger self, but also to spread the word in a like using the internet. But there's just no point. Obviously, we can do it on a communal level. It's just I see our message is better off being spread worldwide and seeing who resonates with us, and then we can go from there. But
Yes,
yeah,
definitely. I mean, everyone has to have self-improvement, has to have like it's I think for when you're born human and you have like your everyday, things taken care of, like you have, your basic necessities taken care of, which I think like on average a lot of people here like in the West already have that.
and take advantage
Then
of it.
exactly, then you can, well, yeah, exactly, and then you can start looking at, okay, yeah, I have to, where are the things that I have to improve on, given my strengths, my weaknesses, and my responsibilities, my circumstances, and whatnot. So yeah, it's like you could say it's a universal message for every human being on earth, for sure.
But also to take into consideration those weaknesses that we have, they are also we wouldn't be human if we didn't have them, or we wouldn't have such a strong we wouldn't be set on this mission if we didn't have these weaknesses, and we just try to like basically make our strengths even stronger than what they are, or basically subsidize our weaknesses as little as possible for them to basically furthermore become strengths later on. And that comes in the more character development, more of like us growing as humans. It's
Gotcha.
like weaknesses are the best things. The weaknesses are the best things for us.
Yeah, definitely. It's what makes us human. Like, like even me, like, in the Holy Quran, it talks about, how God created humans weak, right? Like, the actual ayah says, I forgot the actual verse in Arabic now, but that's the translation, right? Like every human being was created weak, and there's a point to that, right? It's to prove like ourselves, like to prove our existence, why, to validate our, like, when they say don't seek validation from anyone, don't seek validation from anyone except God, right?
Yeah.
That's how you find your purpose. That's how you kind of recalibrate yourself. That's how you see it for what it really is, right? And then you kind of see yourself even in third person too, right? You kind
Yeah.
of like detach yourself from yourself, your ego, what kind of pulls you down, because you're kind of like you're too stuck in your own script,
I was going to say too stuck to reality, but that's perfect. Yeah. That's a perfect way of saying it. Too stuck to your own script because what you believe in is like very strict, straightforward. That's it. Nothing else unless you have like a life changing revolution.
Exactly. But that's still gonna take. It's not just gonna take you. It's gonna take you plus everything around you, plus how God was able. Like, for example, it has to be also given by God, like these revolutions and whatnot. Like what people did in the past, like Napoleon, for example, with the French Revolution, or even like what Hitler did and whatnot. Some of those things you would see that it had like a temporal effect, right, on
Yeah.
human history, and those are things that you know for sure, guy, like there are forces greater than just him. Like he was just a player, in the script.
But he's just playing like his own, as you're saying, he was just playing his own reality. He was playing what he thought was right at the time. What's his best move on the board?
Yeah, exactly. But exactly, he was. But exactly, every human being has to have that reflection, right? Like, what's the best role I can play? What, given my circumstances, obviously what's best for everyone around me, what's best for, some human beings also make mistakes, right?
Yeah.
You know, we're not perfect either, but we kind of play our role depending on, like, how we see our strengths,
Ourselves.
weaknesses, circumstances, whatnot. Exactly. That's how we can achieve, like, better purpose. And sometimes we'll make mistakes. Sometimes we'll make them on such a scale that could impact generations after ours. And then people start writing down lessons. They start writing down, like, it has effects, beyond technological humanitarian, like economic, like everything. And then you'll see like shifts in perspective, paradigm shifts, all of that.
Even you could say personality to an extent, because that would be an extension of the paradigm shifts. Like you notice how like you normally like you notice how after shit happens, people end up changing their personality to more blend in with like the common like the common mold, whereas not many people strive away from that to become something of greatness. Like, have you
Mm-hmm.
noticed that with people? They want to be stuck in that one lane. They're a bit like cattle. Whereas, like, there's only a select few out of us who are willing to put in that, like, not say fuck that, and then just go straighter towards, like, obviously, as we were saying, our true purpose and also our truer sense of self. Because it's not the common road, so that's why we want to take it even more.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have any examples like of people around you that, like these paradigm to personality shifts and whatnot?
I could say there was personally a few of myself, obviously like heartbreaks, that sort of stuff, where I was like from a super emotional, like, I was a finished doormat, and I was just like, fuck that. I don't think emotion should have to do with like obviously emotions are important because they're sort of your guiding factor to they also give you like a pull to which side is right, which side is wrong. They're
Yes.
obviously important to a layer, but also the logical layer is just as, if not more important, because that's the logical layer that the world plays on.
Yes.
Even I could say from the paradigm shift from even my own dad when he was working in the
Mm-hmm.
bank, he was more so like, oh, this is the best thing I should do for my family, and then from there he like runs his own company, and he's just like, instead this is it, even though I've got to take this many more responsibilities, it's going to serve me and my family for a longer time than me dealing with all this drama, all this other stuff with banks, and yeah, just a whole nother catastrophe.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's also something I want to kind of dive into maybe a bit more, but later. It's about like how men kind of navigate themselves to avoid like crises or like big calamities or like you said, catastrophe. Like kind of like navigating life mentally on a mental way, but also like in your actual like physical reality and saying when you make these decisions, like your dad was in the past to avoid problems with the bank or familial problems with his own family or friends or whatnot, and then yeah, kind of him deciding on, okay, yeah, this is now when where I want to make my family, where I want to settle and whatnot, like yeah. And I
But
have
it's
like this
just
other.
logical moves on the chessboard at the end of the day. It's just logical moves on the chessboard, which may not necessarily be good for you long or short. Let's say short to mid term will be better for you and your family long term. Like it's just
Yes.
logical. It's like logical position movements.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, at the end of the day, that's what you have to do, like given your circumstances, time, place, you have to make the next best move or optimal move that's going to help you and your future family.
Even if it sets you back two places, you're still going to be stronger off going back two places, restarting, and then going back forward more and more with that lesson learned from that so-called loss.
Yeah, sometimes it's also like you kind of get like, what, for example, young men, they get a lot pulled into their emotions, so
Yeah,
they kind of have to do those emotional steps, like kind of to kind of finally learn, like the logical, like for example, if you were in a relationship, that's like the classical example, and then you had to move out, let's say, and live with the person for a bit, or just live by yourself later and like kind of figure out, you know like, this is what you want in life, this is what you don't want in life, and stuff like that. Like that happened to me too, right? Like when
yeah.
I moved out to Morocco and kind of did my own relationship there, lived for like a couple months, just to kind of have a taste of what life is, like how life is at that time, like taking care of someone else, covering expenses, groceries, having your own place, meeting your needs. You realize it's not the same, right? It's not the same kind of like lavish fun, right? Because that's what you get caught up into when you're young. Like for me, like at least personally, like you actually have to maintain. Yeah.
I honestly did the same when I was younger, up until obviously I had my whole paradigm shift when I was like super young though. But it's just obviously, as I said, life's like a game of chess. But yeah, do you want to continue on?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and then pretty much after that, I kind of got my lessons learned. I realized like what I have to work on, what kind of life I want, and pretty much you're also it's like what kind of life you want, but also what kind of God has prepared for you in a way. So it's like you kind of balance those two, right? But at the end of the day, it's kind of you also at the end of the day, you have to just be grateful for what you have. Remove your ego. Be like, okay, I took care of like a lot of these things, which is like also self-driven. But then you kind of let go, and you're like, okay, I'll let God take care of the rest. You know, like whatever is not in my control. It's like pretty
But
much,
that's also that standpoint where you should have like as well. It's probably the best mindset to have
yeah,
because
exactly,
then you're not too affected by anything, and then you just let God do His job with you being in control as much of your life that He can be at once, which would probably be the most
exactly,
optimal way of living your life.
definitely. I guess you go to sleep, you have nothing to think about. Like you're not overthinking financially, physically, mentally, nothing. You're just that's it. Let your soul rest, you know.
Yeah.
And then the next day, it's like the next day, pretty much. I mean, that's great. I guess that's probably where I'm gonna end off this episode. If you have
Yeah.
something else to say,
No, I'm just gonna end it off here.
okay, cool.